Okay, let's take a few seconds to introduce about our co-founder, founder, Dr. Bilal Phillips. He's a Jamaican American Islamic scholar. He converted to Islam in the early 1970s. He holds a BA in Islamic Studies from University of Medina, MA in Islamic Theology, and PhD in Islamic Theology. He has taught Arabic and Islamic studies in high schools and universities for over 20 years in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. He set up Islamic studies departments in various universities, and he is named in the 500 most influential Muslim books publications, and he has authored over 50 published Islamic books. The IUU's undergraduate, postgraduate, and master's degrees and certifications have been recognized by universities, evaluation services, and governmental accrediting bodies in the various countries that are listed below. So let's listen to that why studied IUU.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sister
Before you go any further, I would like to share with you 7 excellent reasons why you should choose IOU for your knowledge journey. Reason number 1, Allah centered. We have deliberately returned morality to its proper place in all of our classes and lectures. Reason number 2, affordable. We have made IOU unbelievably affordable so we can educate as many Muslims as possible among our ummah. Reason number 3, accredited. IOU is a Ministry of Higher Education accredited university. Reason number 4, accessible. You can study at IOU from your home or anywhere at any time. Reason number 5, authentic. We only teach authentic knowledge that is aligned with Islamic core values of the Quran. Reason number 6, awesome. IOU has the most diverse student body of any university in the world. So you will meet and interact with Muslim students from literally all corners of the globe. Reason number 7, accepting. Women in IOU are fully represented, and they have excelled beyond our wildest expectations. These are among the top 7 reasons why you should seriously consider enrolling in IOU, a modern, online, digital age university built on Islamic foundations.
So we have various faculties and departments at IUU, faculty of Arabic and Islamic studies, and then we have business administration, economics, banking and finance, Department of Education, Department of IT, Department of Islamic psychology, and the program levels are certificate, diploma, associate degree, bachelor's degree, higher diploma, postgraduate certificate, and master's degree. And we also have IOU Urdu short courses that are designed to like your learning needs, including short, intensive, and certificate programs. Our Foundation of Islamic Studies program provides the student with a strong foundation in Islamic studies. We have qualified instructors, certificate courses that are accessible 24/7. Based on authentic Islamic knowledge and are affordable. For more information, you can reach out on our email and phone number. And then we have IOU subdiaries. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. That's about our upcoming webinars. So do keep an keep your eye on the group so you can know about the upcoming webinars. Okay, so let's talk about today's lecture. It's about how to prepare for job interview that will be covering many key areas. Okay, so now I'll jump directly on to the introduction of our speaker. Today we have Afrah Qureshi with us. I'll take some time to introduce her. Um, Afrah Qureshi is a powerhouse in human development and organizational transformation. She has influenced the professional growth of thousands of people across Pakistan. She currently serves as a director of people and culture and head of training at the Teach the Word Foundation, a global edtech nonprofit working to eradicate illiteracy and expand human potential through technology. Since January 2024, she has been leading the organization's strategic development, governance structure, HR, and large-scale training systems. At Teach the Word Foundation, she has designed and executed complete organizational development plans, built and led the HR, governance, and training departments, created high-impact training strategies used both in person and online. She has worked with the Citizens Foundation TSF, Pakistan's largest non-profit school. She is a seasoned HR and people development expert. Sorry. Okay. Who has spent her career on the front lines of recruitment, talent section, and professional growth. She has worked in leading national organizations, Teach the Word Foundation, the Citizens Foundation, and Aman Foundation, designing systems that hire, evaluate, train, and develop thousands of professionals. Why she's the perfect person to teach you? She has headed HR operations and managed recruitment for organizations with 800 employees. She has designed performance and evaluation systems used to assess candidates and staff. She has trained over 20,000 plus people, including fresh graduates, teachers, principals, and corporate teams. She knows exactly what interviewers look for in candidates from communication to mindset to professionalism. She has built HR frameworks for major institutions and understands how hiring decisions are really made. Her work across TCF and Aman Foundation involved shaping organizational culture, redesigning performance systems, and selecting and developing talent at scale. In every role, she has been known for one core strength, transforming people by helping them present their best professional self. This makes her uniquely qualified to guide you today, not just on how to answer interview questions, but on how employers think, what they notice, and how candidates stand out. We are honored to have her with us today, and I invite all of you to benefit from her insights, experience, and guidance as she begins her session. Over to you, Sister Afrah. Please start.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for that very kind introduction. I'm going to be sharing my screen. Can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So today I will be leading the session on how to prepare for a job interview, and would like to really thank IOU for inviting me here today to lead this session, in which inshallah we'll spend about 40 to 50 minutes, and when I will deliver the session, and then we will leave some time for your questions as well. I've already been introduced to you all. My name is Afrah Qureshi. I think a detailed overview of my professional background has been given. I'm also a mother of two. So I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son, which is also an enriching experience of everything that I am today. So yes, I have 15 plus years of work experience around people development and have been recruiting throughout this time, as you all were just shared. This was shared earlier. And so just the reason I'm resharing that is that everything that I will share today is coming from a perspective of actual practice and not just theoretical or what you may find online or may read in a book. But this is really how we assess candidates, what we look for. And so I hope I can share all of that with you and help you prepare for job interviews and the job market in general. So basically, the agenda today that we have defined, that I have come up with, it's a 5-point agenda. First of all, I would like to thank you all, those of you who engaged from even before this webinar and shared what kind of questions do they have in mind, because it is really important for me to know who my audience is, what exactly is the kind of questions what exactly are the kind of questions that they're struggling with, because I can go on at various lengths of uh, being able to address this topic. But so it really helped me understand your questions and what kind of guidance are you looking for. So I will try to focus the scope of this webinar to specifically the questions that you've shared. Based on those questions, I came up with the remaining agenda items, which is crafting the perfect CV, preparing for an interview, acing the job interview, and in the end, we leave some time for some further questions if you have any, so that we can address them right away. So the questions that you all had submitted, some of you had submitted prior to the session. Thank you. They were very helpful for me. Based on those questions, I'll just quickly share what some of those questions were. So the questions, and I've kind of categorized them, were how to write a good CV and a resume, what are the main features of a good resume. May I request everyone to mute themselves because there is some background noise. Thank you. What are the main features of a good resume or CV? How to prepare your CVs for academic positions, how to perform well in a job interview, how to start your interview, how to do well in a job interview again. These are questions as it is, as I received them. How to start your interview, how to answer the question, tell me about your work experience, how to be confident during an interview, how to build confidence building, and then wanting to improve your communication skills. So when I was going through this list of questions that came to me, I could categorize these questions in 3 big umbrellas. So the first one being around CVs and resumes and how do you make one. So I will touch upon this. By the way, just so you all know, some people also were wondering what is the difference between a CV and a resume. So for honestly, for most parts of the world, the two are used interchangeably. You can say CV or resume. It is slightly different for North America and Canada, but other than that, most parts of the world, you can use the term interchangeably. Then the second part that I saw, most of these questions were around job interviews. So how do you prepare for them? What to do in a job interview? And a common theme, the third theme that I saw, was a lot to do with how do you confidently how can you just be confident during a job interview? So there's a lot of, I think, nervousness around there, and I'll try to address all 3 of these themes in today's session. Of course, it is a limited time hour, so there were some additional questions, all of which I will not be able to address today. But as you know that this is a series of the series of webinars during this conference. So inshallah, some of our other speakers will be addressing some additional of these questions. So going back to our agenda, I just shared the common questions that you all had shared, based on which then I defined this agenda to be around crafting your perfect CV, preparing for the interview, and acing the job interview, inshallah. Lastly, we'll have some time left, hopefully, for questions that you can ask, and I'll be hopefully able to answer you to the best of my capability. So coming to our agenda point 2, which is crafting the perfect CV. Within that, I think what I'll be touching upon is on why do you need to make a strong CV to begin with, what needs to be included in the CV, how do you make the CV strong, and then some common mistakes that we tend to make and how do you avoid them. So these are the 4 points I'll be touching upon in creating a CV. So the very first point, why do you even need to make a strong CV? So with anything that you ever do in life, you must ask why, right? Because you need to understand the rationale that why are you even spending the time to make a strong CV. So a CV, it's a marketing piece which will present you in a positive light. If you've studied marketing, if you generally studied business principles, you understand when you need to sell a product, you have some kind of a brochure, you have some kind of a a write-up around what that product is and why they're so good. Well, a CV is what you use to market yourself. So if you want to sell yourself to the employer, you have to tell them about who you are. And so this is how you market yourself. And if you have a strong, relevant CV, the chances that you will land yourself an interview are high. Why I also say this, an average recruiter spends 6 to 9 seconds to scan a CV before they toss it aside and move on to the next CV. So it's really important that the first impression that they get from your CV is good enough that they spend more than 6 to 9 seconds and actually engage with your CV to see, oh, there's something interesting in here that I want to look at. So maybe they'll spend some additional time. So that it's really important to make a strong CV so that your employer is interested, and then you have a stronger chance to get an interview. Also, if you have a good CV and inshallah you're invited for an interview, your interviewers will know what to ask rather than you just going for a meeting for the very first time.
Then I switch my stream.
May I request everyone to please mute yourself unless there is something you'd like to ask? Thank you. So lastly, if you have a strong enough CV, your interviewer will have something meaningful to talk to you about. They wouldn't just, when you go to an interview, they wouldn't just say, tell me about yourself. They would probably, hopefully, have read your CV and they would know a little bit about you. And maybe they can ask you some specific questions regarding whatever you bring to the table. So you already have a head start when your CV is clear about who you are and talk a little bit about yourself. So that's why it's really important to have a strong CV, because that's really the first step of a recruitment process. So this next part I'm going to talk about is what sections to include in a CV. It sounds pretty basic, but contact information is really important. Recently, I came across a CV which looked really interesting, and I said, oh, let's get in touch with this person. And interestingly, I couldn't find any contact number on that CV. So it's really important that you, in a very obvious place, probably at the top or somewhere, have your full name, your phone number, your email address, your LinkedIn profile, if you have one, stated, so that the employer, if they like you, if they think they want to get in touch with you, it's easy for them to get in touch with you. A lot of people like to add a personal statement, which is good. My only watch out here is that it should be very brief. It shouldn't be a whole paragraph. It should be very brief, very crisp. It should talk about your skills, experience, career goals are important. And I think in the next few slides, I'm going to talk about how your personal statement or objective should also be very relevant to the job that you're applying for. Then comes the work experience. You have to, we list our positions of all the places we have worked in. And even, I know a lot of people wonder that I don't have any work experience. So whatever you may have done, which may be voluntary experience, or some things you've done during your student life, like teaching assistantship or research assistantships. So any kind of work experience, which counts as experience after all, even if it's not paid, needs to be listed. And it has to be in reverse chronological order. So chronological order means it needs to be in an order. So 2015 and then 2016 and 2017, and reverse. So you don't start the very first work experience on your CV shouldn't be the very first that you've done in your life. It should be the recent one, and then you go backward from there. So that's how the work experience should be listed. And of course, your education needs to be there. So with education also, you list degrees in reverse chronological order. That means that if you have a master's, start with the master's and then perhaps mention bachelor's. Also, it's not necessary if you feel that you have a master's in literature and you have a bachelor's in computer science, and the job that you're applying for is something that's relevant to literature, well, it's okay. I mean, maybe you don't even need to mention the bachelor's. You can just talk about the recent degree. But if you really want to talk about your bachelor's, maybe because you graduated from a really strong a university, you want them to know that this is a university I came from, then it's okay to mention bachelor's as well as master's. But I think what I'm trying to say is you don't need to go all the way to before that. Just the recent most degrees which are relevant would be sufficient. And then skills. So if you'd like to have a dedicated section for your relevant skills, such as especially if you have technical expertise, if you have IT related skills, some language skills which you know are relevant for the job. If the job's asking for a certain kind of language, then those are skill set that you must mention, because then that gives you an edge that this is why you are a candidate that they should prefer. Lastly, this is optional really, but I really like it when people have interests there. And this shows that you're someone who can get excited about something. There is something in your life that you're passionate about. Now, this may or may not be relevant to your application at all. Like if you're applying for an IT role, you may say that really I love technology or so. But even if you don't necessarily have to make it relevant, it could be something like a sports lover, or love photography, love traveling, or something that really does excite you. And so you don't have to write a lot about it, but it shows the human side of you, that yeah, while you also have all this work experience and education and skill set, there's something that makes you human. And often you'll be surprised that when you're applying, sometimes an interviewer just asks you, oh, I see that you're interested in football, so what league do you support? So that's how sometimes conversations also start. So very briefly, but it's nice to have your interests as well there. Moving on to now we've covered why do you need to have a strong CV, what specifically goes there, but how do you stand out? Everybody has a CV, and pretty much everyone will follow one format or another to make a CV. There are lots of formats out there, and honestly, there is no right or wrong answer of what's the best format to use. You kind of have to see the context, or where you're applying, or at what level of your career are you. So that all matters for you when you decide what format do you want to use. But what's going to really make your CV stand out? How do you make it strong? So first of all, it needs to be clear and readable. Sometimes people, maybe because somebody said not to make a very strong, very long CV. So what they do is they decrease the font size to like 8 or 6, just so that they can fit everything in one page. Well, if it's not readable, it just shows that you don't have the kind of design aesthetic to even make your CV readable. What kind of an employee can you be? So make sure that your font size is 10 to 12 points. It's readable and clear. Secondly, being concise is really important. So when I say aim for 1 to 2 pages, honestly, you go to 2 pages if you have at least 10 years of experience. Otherwise, your CV should stick to 1 page. And only when it's like post 10 years, then you move on to your second page. Now, sometimes, honestly, if you're near 8 to 9 years, you're wondering, should I move on to the next page or should I stick to one? So what I used to do at that phase of my life, I used to have my CV used to be about a page and a half. And when I was applying to a certain job, I would see what exactly is the need of this job. Then I would tailor it and would take out the irrelevant parts. So, for example, if I'm applying for a job which wants someone who can train, who has a training kind of a leadership, so I would remove some of my HR aspects because they weren't relevant. So, I would make sure it still fits within one page. Why is it important that it's not too long and it's not going on and on? It's because, again, like I said, a recruiter spends about 5 to 7 seconds scanning a CV before they move on to the next. So unless it's concise, it's to the point, it's really making your important points stand out, they will move on. So avoid long paragraphs. Wordy CVs are really already, they put the recruiters off, and they would probably not engage. So just have bullet points, and for every work experience that you have, you should have about 3 to 4 maximum bullet points about what you've done and what goes in there. Those bullets should be action oriented. So each bullet should have a strong action verb that describes your accomplishment, like achieved this, developed a software which did this, achieved something, or managed a team of 10 people. So, start with an action verb which shows what you did. It shouldn't be stating your job description like responsible for this, responsible for that. That's just a job description. And then you don't even need to mention it necessarily. What you should mention is your accomplishment, your achievement in that role. Then you quantify your achievement. So wherever possible, you talk about, as I said, achievement, right? Make it quantitative. Don't leave it vague. Like if you just say increased sales, that's not sufficient. So increase sales by what? By how much percent? For me, I'm in the education sector, so I would say increase the learning by 25%. So, because we measure during the pre-test and the post-test of a training. So what was the difference of the learners at the beginning of the training and at the end of the training? That's the kind of increase we're talking about. So mention it, quantify it. And then what's really important, and this is the second most important piece, which is proofread. It's a huge turnoff when a recruiter sees a CV which has a typo, a spelling error, a grammatical error, because it shows that your language skills aren't good, your attention to detail is not good, and if you're not good with being able to read your own CV, what's the kind of quality of work that you will bring to work? So proofreading is really important. It's really easy. You can just do a spell check, you can do a grammar check. And lastly, the most important piece, which is tailor your CV. So like I would just share an example earlier, you have your main CV, that's great. But when you're applying for a job, read the job description and see what parts of your CV are relevant to this. If they're not, think of are you even a good fit? Why? Is something missing in your CV? So tailor it, modify it specifically for the job application that you are applying for. So that's what makes your CV stand out. And this is where you need to spend that time to make your CVs relevant and strong. Now, what should you not do in a CV? Do not add irrelevant personal information like your age, how old are you, doesn't matter. That shouldn't play a role in determining whether or not you get the job. Whether you're married or not doesn't matter. Your nationality, religion shouldn't matter. And your photo, unless some jobs want it, it's not necessary. So feel free not to add any of these. This takes up unnecessary space on your CV. Then cliches like generic phrases, like I earlier said, responsible for this or that. No need to add that. Just talk about your achievements and accomplishments. And unnecessary details like minor qualifications, like you may have attended a training somewhere. If you don't have a lot of things to add to your CV, then sure. But if your CV is getting wordy and long, just omit these kind of details. And again, like I said earlier, spelling errors and typos, typing mistakes, they really, I mean, that's a huge way of getting eliminated in the very first round of CV scanning. So back to our agenda then, this was just a little bit about how do you craft your perfect CV. So with all of these tips, inshallah, I hope you can have a strong CV. And then we'll come a little bit talking about the interview and preparing for it. So, you know, a lot of you said that how do you develop confidence? Um, that's something. There's lots of things that you could do, but you know, one of the biggest things that you do is if you are prepared for the interview, that's really going to make you feel confident. So how to feel confident about the job interview? Let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, like I said, prepare your content thoroughly. If you're prepared, you'll feel confident. That's the first. So first thing is know your story. Prepare short, structured answers for what if they ask me, tell me about yourself. What are you going to say? You're not going to go at a long ramble. You need to have a very concise response that you should have prepared beforehand about yourself. Who are you really? So it shouldn't be more than 60 seconds. Even better if you can cover it in 30 to 45 seconds. Who are you? Tell me about yourself. What are your strengths? Why this role? Describe a challenge, how you handled it. Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? All of these are very commonly asked questions. So make a list of these questions and know the answers to these questions. These are very frequently asked questions. Most likely you will be asked at least one of these questions, if not more. So know your story, know your responses to these questions as the first. The second part of being prepared before the interview is know the job description. If you're going for an interview, you must know what this job is about. Sometimes candidates come and they share a very generic CV, and then I ask, they're not being able to answer my question, and I'm like, have you even read the job description? They're like, I applied for many jobs, I forgot which one this one was for. Huge red flag. I immediately do not want to engage. That's my initial gut, and that's what a lot of recruiters do, because there's lots of candidates out there who've actually done their homework. So you got to do your homework. You need to know your job description that you're applying for. Then, not just know the job description, but you think of 5 to 6 skills that this role requires, and think of examples from your work experience that makes you relevant, that makes you qualified to do this job. So you got to know this beforehand. You can't go there and then brainstorm what should I say now. So that's really important, to know the job description, tailor your responses, understand why you are relevant to the job. Then you got to know the organization. So where are you going? What is this company or an organization? What is their mission, values? What is their work like? So you must look up their website. You must look up their LinkedIn page if they have one. See if they have any social media activity. What is their recent activity like? Who are the people in the leadership? Know them, know the organization, look them up. So, and then also on a very honestly see, are you aligned with the work that they do? In what ways are you aligned with them? And then think of those 1 or 2 points that makes you genuinely want to work with them. And when you know this yourself in your head, and when you communicate, it comes across as, oh, this person really knows us, and they've made an informed decision of why they want to come to this interview. Okay. And lastly, this one is really interesting. Know your interviewer. So oftentimes you might know who is going to interview you. I know I often see that my LinkedIn views, who's viewed my LinkedIn, and it almost impresses me that someone who was going to come to be interviewed by me looked me up before coming. Looked me up and perhaps tried to find similarities between me and them. Like, did we go to the same university? Do we have similar interests? What are their interests? Who have they worked with? Is there someone I know who they've worked with? Can I find out something about them? It really works in your benefit if you have done that kind of research before you go and meet this person. So if you prepare yourself, first of all, that confidence is going to come. Additionally, then what else you can do is practice your delivery. So make a video of yourself, practice how you respond to questions. So this is one of the fastest ways to improve. You don't need to necessarily go to a class or something and get opinions or feedback from someone. You're smart enough to give yourself that feedback. Put a camera in front of you, put your phone camera in front of you, and try to respond. Practice the delivery. See, look at your pace when you record yourself and see how fast am I speaking. Am I speaking too fast? Am I speaking too slow? There needs to be a certain balance in your sense of urgency as well as consistency and articulation. So clarity is really important. Regardless of your pace, how clear are you? Is the message being delivered? If not, this is where you need to redo and re-record yourself to realize that, oh, this is where I needed to be better at. So I'll do a round two. Notice, are you using a lot of filler words like, you know, because that kind of shows the lack of confidence. And it's normal to have that kind of nervousness. Even with interviews, even with webinars, there is some nervous energy at the beginning, right? When you start speaking, but it gets better over time. So watch out for these and see how you're doing. And keep practicing so that you consciously try to reduce these filler words in your conversation. Then lastly, the confidence in your tone. What is your tone sounding like? Do you sound confident? And I'm going to talk a little bit about this in more slides ahead. Within practice your delivery, some things you can do is mock interviews. So while you can record yourself, you can, if you have a friend, a colleague, a brother, sister, a career counselor, that'll be really ideal. You can practice an interview with them. You can ask them to give you feedback as well, because if you feel that you're not being able to get enough by just recording yourself, this is also something you could do. The more you practice, practice makes perfect. That's what we hear. And then practice short, concise answers. Something to watch out for is sometimes when somebody asks you a question, if we tend to be underconfident generally, then we start rambling a lot, like we go on and on and on. So practice short, concise answers. If I ask you a question, make sure that I have responded to the question. Sometimes your answer does tend to get long because perhaps you're talking about a certain experience and what happened, but make sure that the question has answered and then close with what sounds like a full stop in your statement. So the more you ramble, the more confidence goes down. Like I said, aim for concise answer, 60 to 90 seconds per answer for typical questions. And if it's a very detailed question, and I will come to what those detailed questions look like, then spend maybe 2 to 3 minutes for more detailed questions. But it needs to end with the response to the question being asked. Then verbal communication skills. So there are some non-verbal ones as well we'll come to, but verbal communication skills need work on those, work on tonality. So you need to speak slower in order to get confidence. So when you speak really fast, it actually makes you look really perhaps not fully in control of your speech. So speak slow and stress on keywords. What does that mean? So when you have a sentence to say, stress on certain words. For example, how to feel confident about the job, how to feel confident about the job, or how to feel confident about this job. So, in each of those three variations, I stressed on a particular word that I wanted to stress on. So depending on the context, stress on keywords, speak slow, use pauses intentionally. So, like when we write, we have a full stop, we have a comma, they mean something. Like on a full stop, you you breathe, right? If there's a comma, you take a little pause. And that's important even when you verbally speak. So they need to be reflected in your speech. Vocabulary, let it come naturally. I know we all want to you have very good vocabulary all the time, but avoid sounding fancy. Avoid trying to use jargon. And while you are focusing so much on using fancy vocabulary and jargon, you actually miss the main point often. So use clear sentences, simple language which comes naturally to you. Because when you speak naturally in the way you are comfortable in, you will be more confident. The more you try to appear someone or something, speak in a certain way that's not normal or natural for you, you will most likely um, say something wrong or become more unconfident. And then feel free to take a pause to have a thoughtful structure that, oh, this question was asked. How do I respond to it? What is the response of this? So don't immediately jump into giving a response. Just think before you respond to what should be the answer for this. It's okay to take a pause. It won't make you look bad. It might make you look worse if you immediately try to respond and say something that you later regret. And breathing is normal. It's fine. In fact, deep breathing before and during interviews, it keeps your voice steady. So feel free to do that. In terms of non-verbal communication, so a lot of people think communication is just the words I'm using, but that's just part of the communication. A lot of the communication is your body language. So what is body language? Body language is how you appear. So right now, whether I sit, when I go for an interview, how I'm sitting also speaks. It's not speaking verbally, but it speaks. So if I go and sit with my hands folded, it kind of shows it's an open posture, it's a closed posture. When you close your hands like this without realizing it, the impression people get is you're not close to ideas, you're not close to opinions. So an open posture is when you sit with your hands locked, but or your hands can be moving around naturally. That's positive body language. You keep yourself relaxed and your shoulders. If you sit at the edge of a seat, it shows that you're nervous. But if you just relax and just lean back, that shows that you're relaxed and actually makes you relaxed. Maintain eye contact for most of the time. If you're super underconfident, often I've seen people who cannot make eye contact, they immediately lose the interview because uh, they feel shy. They feel shy to look in the eye, so they try to look away. So try your best to make eye contact at least 60 to 70% of the time, and nod occasionally to show engagement. So when their interviewer is talking, you nod your head to kind of show that you can understand what they're saying and you're not like distracted. Do not use your phone. Do not look at your phone because it just shows that you're not interested. And if you really have an important phone, call then you can. It's okay. It's human. It's normal. If maybe it's an emergency, you can say, okay, I'm sorry, this is really important. Can you just give me 1 minute? And I'm sure they'll understand. Really important piece is to smile. So we believe often that if we're happy, we smile. You'll be surprised to know that it also works the other way. So when we smile, our body, our mind gets the signal that something good is going on. So when you smile, not only do you feel relaxed actually, but even your interviewer senses this relaxation and there's a calm about you and you start gaining your confidence. So it makes you appear confident and helps you relax your facial muscles. So please do smile. Don't shy away from smiling. Then, so with all the tips that I just shared, which can help you become more confident, um, you gotta feel confident, and for that you have to believe in yourself. You can't deep down inside feel that, oh, I'm so bad, I'm so incompetent, I can't do this, I don't know how to do this. You can't feel that way about yourself and just do all these other things trying to develop confidence. So think of your success stories. Think of a couple of achievements that you're very proud of, and remind yourself that, oh, I did this and I'm so good at this. When you keep thinking and telling yourself this, hello? So, okay. When you keep thinking about the good things that you've done, your achievements, and you keep reminding yourself that I deserve to be here. I have valuable skills. This interview is a conversation. It's not a test. When you tell yourself these things, you feel good about yourself. And when you feel good about yourself deep down inside, that's when you get the confidence, because the lack of confidence is really deep down inside you thinking to yourself that, oh, I will not make it because I'm not good enough. So keep having that internal dialogue with yourself. You need to shift your mindset, because yes, you're here for a job in the interview, but the interviewer is not doing you a favor by interviewing you. They're also looking for someone, and they need someone to do the job. And they're not looking for the perfect human being, but they're looking for someone who's the right fit. And maybe you are the right fit for this role. So just remind yourself this, that you can do it, you are the right fit. And if you convince yourself first, you might be able to convince the interviewer as well.
Assalamu alaikum, madam.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, what if the interviewer asks a question which you do not understand, or the question include a keyword that you do not understand?
Okay. Can we have some time? I'm going to inshallah leave some time in the end for questions. So I'll take all questions together. I'll just quickly go through this presentation and I'll take your questions. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so one thing that you got to do is prepare what's your start of the interview and what is the end going to be like. So in the start, like I said, introduce yourself, have a prepared 45 to maximum 60-second introduction of yourself, who you are. And the end should also be really strong. So in the end, often interviewers ask in the end, is there a question you want to ask me? And oftentimes, candidates say, no, I don't have any questions. So it's a really good opportunity to, again, make an impression on your interviewer. Think of some thoughtful questions and prepare them beforehand. Ask some thoughtful questions, like I work in the nonprofit, so I would always ask, how do you measure impact? Or I would always ask, what is the operational expense of your, or where does the funding come from? So, it kind of shows that I've been thinking about the model that they have to offer. And in the end, always conclude with a line like, I'm really excited about the potential of contributing to this role. Or like, I don't know if we'll be able to work together, but I really hope to be able to work with you. Something positive that leaves a good impression. And lastly, after each interview, it's always a learning opportunity. Maybe the interview did not go well at all, but you must reflect at the end and have a strong reflection. Ask yourself, what went well in this interview? So you always start with the positive. Tell yourself what you did well in the interview, and what was the question that confused me? What could have I done if I was confused in that question? Could I have asked for clarity? Maybe I did not understand the accent of the interviewer. Could I have asked them to repeat or write it down for me? Why did I get so confused? So you could reflect on those things, and then you can always see, what can I do next time? How could I try that the similar situation does not occur the next time? And if you keep doing this after every interview, inshallah, with these small improvements, you will make big differences. So sometimes if you're not even entirely sure, but if you want to go for an interview just for practice, that's not bad, because you will learn something. Maybe you will learn the art of giving interviews. Back to our agenda. So we've now spoken a little bit about crafting the perfect CV, preparing for the interview. And like I said, if you're prepared, you will feel confident. And that's one of the things a lot of you kept asking about. And now we're going to talk a little bit about something with regards to the job interview. So a lot of the things I said within preparing for the job interview They will help you ace the interview, inshallah. But there is one specific thing that I just want to talk about, and I'll be very quick because I do want to leave some time for questions. So a lot of the times when you go for a job interview, your interviewer is going to ask you what we call behavioral questions or situational questions. They will give you a situation and they will ask you to respond. What would you do in this situation? Or have you ever been faced with a situation when this happened? So whenever a situational question is asked, you think of the STAR method. The STAR method is basically STAR is S for situation, T for task, A for action, and R for result. So if, for example, if they ask, can you think of a time when you had multiple projects, multiple tasks to do, and you had very little time? Can you tell me about that time? And if you respond, yes, in my last year, in my final year of my education, there were so many projects I had to do. It was a very hard time. If you answer that, you will most likely not get the job. What they're looking for is, can you think in a STAR method, which is, can you state what the situation was due to the situation? What was the task at hand? What action did you take? And what was the result of that action? That's all that you have to articulate very clearly. So you say, yes, I had 2 projects. The last year of my university, I had 3 exams to take. I had a project, a thesis to write, and a group project, and I just had 2 weeks to do all of that. Now it was very little time. Now the task, you shared the situation. Then you can say the task was that I needed to accomplish all of this, and make sure that in the group project also, I make sure that my my partners are able to also comply and do this in time. As an action, what I did was I held a group meeting and we divided our responsibilities. Then I asked my friend to help me to divide, and we do some readings, and while I did some other readings, and he explained to me and I explained to him, and that's how we were able to cover all the readings. And this is, so you kind of specifically talk about the action you took. In the end, you must mention what the result was, and so you should try to pick examples where there was a positive result, so that will show you that in the end, and alhamdulillah, I got all A's except, well, I got 1 B, but my thesis went well and we got a 90% in our dissertation or whatever. So it's important to then also conclude with the result whenever a situational question is asked. Some examples of situational questions could be, tell me about a time when you faced a challenging problem at work. So a situation you can talk about is, a retail manager faced low stock of popular items during the holidays due to a delayed shipment. Now you've stated what the situation was. Talk about the task, which is the goal was to meet the sales target and manage your customer expectations despite the delay. The action that we took was that the manager had to coordinate with other stores for stock. It increased online promotions and sourced alternate products from a local supplier. And as a result, sales targets were exceeded by 15% and customer satisfaction improved by 10%. So as crisply as that, without going into a long ramble of what happened, and then I felt this and I was feeling sad or I wanted to cry. Maybe you can mention that for a dramatic effect, but really, you need to make sure that these 4 points, that the situation, the task, the action, and the result is very clear in your responses. So this is one example. Another question that you may often get is, describe a time when you had a conflict with a team member. This is a very common one. And you can do the STAR method there as well. Another example could be, give me an example of a time when you showed initiative and took charge of a situation. Now, this is where they test your leadership with a question like this. And oftentimes you will say, I have never been in a leadership position. But that's probably not true, because you don't need to be the manager at an organization to be in a leadership position. Maybe in a group project you manifested leadership. Maybe in some other voluntary capacity you manifested leadership. Maybe even in your family dynamics you manifested leadership. So always think that there must be something that I can give an example of. but always use the STAR method, which is situation, task, action, and result. This will, inshallah, set you at an advantage among other applicants, and you should get it. So there goes the first 4 objectives that we shared. And finally, we'll come to questions. I know you all have some, and we have about 5 minutes left for the webinar, but please do share any questions that you do have.
If anyone have any question, please ask. Sister Afra, we have 3 questions.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question here.
Yes. First you can go ahead with them. Then we will ask our questions, inshallah.
Yeah, so I didn't hear.
Yeah. Please raise your hand and then, begin. Yes, Brother Lantern, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't hear you talk about the dress code.
Okay. Okay. You'd like to know about dress code? So, usually organizations have different dress code policies, but in general, you dress formally. That's usually that works for most organizations. But some organizations have a young culture and they're okay with smart casual. So also depending on which country you're operating from, which organization you're applying to, but it's always to be conservative. It's safe to dress formally.
Brother Babar, you had a question. Please go ahead and ask. Okay, till then someone asked the question. Let me ask this question from a sister. When they ask us to record in 2 minutes, what should we highlight in those 2 minutes?
Oh, I think what they're saying is that sometimes for some job applications, they want you to record a video of you and send a 2-minute video of you. Now, it really depends on the context, within those 2 minutes. I don't know what this application may be about, but of course you spend at least about 10 to 20 seconds giving a quick introduction of yourself. Within those introduction, I mean, there's so much that you can talk about yourself, right? But make sure your introduction is relevant to what you're applying for. And then in the remaining minute and a half, talk about why in that role, usually this works, in that role, why you're relevant for the role, what makes you suitable for this job or this role. And that's where you should spend all the time.
Jazakallah, Sister Afra. Brother Said, can you, if you have any question, go ahead, ask.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for this presentation. I wanted to ask, when it comes to the interviewee, when you are asked, for instance, okay, it's your turn, go into that room, and when you open the room, and you go in there, depending, of course, on the tradition, but is it normal to say, would I have to shake his hand or just greet him afar? And the number 2, would I wait until I'm asked to sit down, or I would just take my seat? Sometimes these are some of the confusing things that I just wanted to ask.
Okay. So cultures vary. You may know your country's culture best. Usually, a handshake is a good idea. But for example, in my country, for sure, if a man and a woman will probably not shake hands. But if it's 2 women or 2 men, they shake hands. But handshake usually is a good sign of professionalism. Feel free to shake hands, and mostly they'd ask you to sit, but I don't think they would expect you to stand, right? So I think it's okay to take your seat even if you're not asked to sit. It's basic
Okay, thank you
respect
very
and
much.
dignity, right? I mean, everybody has their dignity to sit down.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, Brother Babukar, you can ask the question now. Please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Yes, as I asked earlier, that is the if there is a question that the interviewer asks and then you do not understand the question, or there is a particular word in that question which you do not understand, how do you make sure that you understand that question?
I think you can just be honest and say, I'm sorry, I did not understand your question. Or you can say, can you please rephrase your question? Mostly interviewers have the sense to understand that maybe you struggled with a certain technical word, and mostly they will rephrase or use a different word to help you understand their question. But you must be honest and say it right away, rather than the worst thing we can do is try to respond, and that gives a worse impression because it makes the interviewer feel that you do not have the capacity to understand a question. So honesty is the best idea, that you say very transparently that I'm sorry, did not understand that. Can you please rephrase your question so I can understand better? It actually gives you additional points. I personally like it more when people ask me to clarify the question rather than people just trying to answer without understanding the question.
Okay, thank you, madam. Well, I have one more question, if you will please
Sure,
allow
sure.
me. Okay, that is what the last man asked about that. If you get into the interview room, are you supposed to sit or you are supposed to wait for the interviewer to tell you to sit? I've encountered that I went inside straight and then sat, and then the interviewer said, "Can you please get out?" So I have to go out again. I came inside, then I stand, and then he told me, "Can you please sit down?" Then I sit.
I am not aware of this kind of a culture, but maybe it might be a certain culture in some places, in some countries, and it may be acceptable. See, where all the places that I have worked in, everybody deserves respect and dignity. And to be seated, I mean, we're not in a school. You're here as an adult for a job interview, and you deserve the respect to sit down. And personally, I mean, this is my personal value. I feel like if somebody asks you to get out because you sat before they asked you to, I would almost be offended. But then that's probably because the place I come from, respect and dignity is a very basic value. However, if that is the culture, because you're the second person who is asking me this question, then you know your culture better than me. Perhaps you should wait to be asked to sit, because I sense this is a recurring question.
All right, thank you, madam.
Maybe if that's a concern, maybe you can ask, can I sit? Because I mean, maybe that's a issue that most of you are raising. So maybe it's better to ask.
Yeah, it do happen in the Gambia here.
In the Gambia.
Okay.
Okay, Brother Hassan, you can ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum. Ma'am, like a lot of students now graduated and has no experience. So what should they write in a CV as experience? Like some students do courses from Coursera, Udemy, or other. Should they write these courses or not?
Yes, Aspan. So that's walaikum salam. This is what I said in my presentation as well. Definitely, if you are a fresh graduate, I understand you have limited things to show, limited work experiences. Then definitely you can add these things. If you've done some courses from Coursera, please do share those. You can have a section on courses and certifications, or trainings, courses and certifications. And you can mention all the courses that you've taken, whether they're from Coursera or any other online platform. Additionally, what I really encourage you all is to be creative about work experience. So work experience doesn't necessarily mean a job where you were paid. Think of voluntary work that you may have done, even if it's something very short. Think of an internship that you may have done. So mention those under work experience, under the section of work experience, because with those experiences, you gain work experience. And at that stage of your life, that is the work experience you have. Maybe you have been the teaching assistant, so you are a TA-ship, or you had an RA-ship, you were a research assistant, or you hosted a webinar, or add those things as you were part of the some student council or some other organization in your university or college. So you can mention those things as work experience as well.
Yes, I am watching always the LinkedIn profiles. They show a lot of students show a very low work experience, and banks and others want experience for internship also. I checked some days ago. They also want experience for internship. So we are to gain experience.
Okay, so usually at entry level, not a lot of experience is required. So I think for fresh graduates, the kind of jobs or internships even that you target for, it says in it 0 to 2 years experience is required. So because they are expecting entry levels to apply, and when it says 0 to 2 years, it means that it's okay if you don't have a lot of formal work experience, because of course fresh graduates also do. I mean, they do find jobs, because there are a lot of jobs which are specifically catered to fresh graduates. When I hire, there are some jobs that if you have 5 years of experience, I will not hire you because you're overqualified. I am looking for a fresh graduate. And when I'm looking for a fresh graduate, you don't need experience. So maybe if that job that you're looking for is saying so, maybe that's not the job for you. Maybe look for other jobs which are looking for completely fresh out of college or graduates.
Okay, thanks.
We have one question, I think 2 questions from Sister Alicia. Sister Alicia, go ahead, ask your questions.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And the first question is, should I wait for the rejection email?
Should you wait for the rejection email? Well, honestly, a lot of organizations don't send rejection emails. It's nice of many organizations who do, but realistically, if you don't hear back within 3 to 4 weeks, it most likely means that you were not selected. Also, other ways of finding out whether or not you were selected, keep looking at that job opening. If the job opening does not exist anymore, it probably means you did not make it. However, it's nice to follow up. So if you've had an interview and it's been 2 or 3 weeks and you do want to, or even less than that, if it's not within the same week, one thing that you can do is, first of all, maybe I did not cover it in my presentation, but if you had an interview with someone, it's really good practice to write an email to them right away to say, thank you for the interview. I had a great time. It was a great experience to speak to you and learn about your work. I hope that we can work together, or something of that sort right away. And then if you haven't heard back from them for a week or 2, then you can write back to them to say, following up to see on the status of my application. So that's okay. And if you still don't hear back, it probably means that it is a rejection.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question is, when should I apply for the same job again, or should I even apply again And if I have to apply again, what should change in it?
Okay, the same, if you apply for a job and you did not hear back for maybe 2 months, but the job is still open, you may want to apply again, and or the better idea is that you should write an email asking about the status of your application, and solicit feedback, that even if I did not make it, I would appreciate if I could understand what was lacking in my application, because I personally thought I was a very good candidate for this role. See if you hear back. If you're not being able to hear back, then perhaps uh, perhaps you haven't made it, and I don't know if applying again would help or not. Sometimes, but the job closes, like the job posting is, they're not accepting applications anymore. It means they've hired someone, and after a couple of months you see that job open up again. It means that whoever they hired most probably did not work out, and now they're again hiring for the role. That is a good time to apply again.
Okay, got it. Jazakallah, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, if anyone else has any question, Brother Said, your hand is raised if you want to ask another question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Madam Afrah, sorry, I'm coming back again, but it will be the last one. I'm still going back to the question I asked earlier. Also, this time, a little bit, I need a little bit of advice, particularly when in your slides, you did mention that get to know your interviewer if possible, or get to know the culture of the company you are applying into. So when I entered, am I applying my culture, or I try to apply the interviewers? When I come, for instance, in this part of the world, we bow down to sometimes even to greet. In maybe the company I'm applying to, is a European country. They don't do those things. So I just want to. So am I going to do it my way, or because I know you access to learn more about the company's culture, or the person I interviewing me? Am I going to do how he wants, shake hands with him? So this is the little confusion I want. The last one is also that most of the interviews I went to, at the end of the day, I will smile and ask the interviewer, how did you think I do? And they will laugh. Most of the time they will laugh, but I've always never missed my, most of the time, I get employed. But I'm saying, is it a good thing? I have not learned it from anywhere, but it's one of the things I do. Then I will ask the interviewer, smiling, how do you think I do? And they will laugh, and then they will tell me, you will hear from us. So just a little clarification on both.
Okay. I think when there is a difference of cultures, visibly, you know that you're coming from a different country or different part of the world, and where you're applying, they have a different culture. Sorry, someone's mic is unmute. Right. So yeah, if you have a difference in your culture and the interviewer's culture, I think once again, like I said earlier, to the question of when you don't understand the question, honesty is usually it's a good idea, which is, for example, I'll tell you, my CEO, he is from the United States, and I am from Pakistan, and I'm a Muslim, visibly so, because I wear a hijab. And every time he comes to greet, he first asks, are you comfortable to shake hands? So he asks me, and that's very kind of him, because it's awkward if he extends his hand and if I don't shake hands. Similarly, in different cultures, I grew up in Saudi Arabia, and in Saudi Arabia, men would, they would hug and they would kiss. Now, that may not be the norm in a French culture, where two men would greet like that, perhaps. So it's, I think, important to know your culture, but also know how common is this, or how acceptable or unacceptable this may be to the other people. And perhaps ask for permission, or ask, are you comfortable? Especially, wherever a physical touch is involved, you must, I think, perhaps ask if that's okay, if that's appropriate. Whether it's about sitting down, you can ask that, can I sit? I think no harm in asking, can I sit down? And if they laugh or they, of course, you can say, well, in my culture, it's only respectful to ask for permission. So it's okay to be open about it. I think people only appreciate this. And I think in terms of the second question that you asked about asking whether I made it or not, I think there's nothing wrong with it, but a nicer, more polished way of asking that is, when can I find out about my performance on this interview? Or you can say, what is the next step? Or how soon will we find out about the outcome of this interview? So usually interviewers, because they are interviewing multiple people, so they also want to see who's the best candidate. So it's hard for them to say you made it or not, because maybe they will have 2 more interviews after you. So maybe after that they will decide. So to ask a direct question, they may not be able to answer anyway. Usually our standard response as a recruiter is that we will get back to you in 1 to 2 weeks. And within that time, if you make it, you'll find out. So that is the standard practice, I think. So yeah, but you can ask what is the next step or what is the timeline of us finding out. That's a nice way to ask.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khairan kathiran, Afra. There's a question in the chat box. Sister Alicia is going to read it. From Probanlo. It says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Question: if the work needs affirmative action, it's possible to add little minority group or some? I don't clearly understand the question. If you do, please answer.
Let me have a look. In the chat box?
Yes.
If the work needs affirmative action, it's possible to add little minority group or some. See, this is a classic example of not understanding a question and requesting, can you please rephrase this question? Because I didn't quite understand it.
Okay, till she does, there's a question from, I think, Aisha Ali. I'm sorry for an irrelevant question. Is the head of finance position at Teach the World still open?
No, it's closed.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan kathiran. If anyone has a question, please ask. Otherwise, we're going to end. Jazakallah khairan kathiran for Afra giving us your time. And it was an amazing session. I loved it. It was mind-blowing, mashallah. Let's end this session. If anyone has a question, please ask.
Yeah, maybe before you do, I can ask one more question.
Sure.
Yes, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, so suppose you've been asked during an interview, suppose they asked an academic question or a technical question, which is in your field of study, and you genuinely do not know the answer. What is the best way to respond? Should you say you don't know or attempt to give any answer, or tell them that you're going to research about it? So like, what's the best way of going about it?
So if in an interview they ask you a technical question and you don't know the answer, that's what you're asking?
Yes, yes.
I
A
think
technical question or an academic question. Yeah,
Right.
maybe in your field of study.
Right. See, there is different levels of how much you know the answer. If you know a little bit about it or something about it or relevant to it, maybe in that case you respond by saying that, you know, what you asked is a very good question, Honestly, I don't know the answer fully. What I do know is, and then you say something relevant to that topic that you know, and you say regarding the other part that you specifically asked, I don't fully know this, but I will look this up. So you show your interest. First of all, you show that you understand what the question is. Then you show that you are honest about how much you know and how much you don't know. I think both of those traits are really positive traits, because see, none of us is perfect, right? But what an interview is often looking for is your attitude. To what is your attitude? What is your mindset? If you try to answer it wrong, most likely you will be wrong, and you will obviously the interview will rate you negatively on that anyway. The better way is to be honest and partially try to respond, at least to the best of your knowledge, what you do know about that topic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one of the person is asking if you can, Brother Asman is asking if you can share your slides, Afrah.
Of course, of
so-
course. I will share them with you, Sister Sahar, and you can share it with everybody else.
Okay, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan kathiran. If anybody has a question, please ask. Otherwise, we're going to end because it's too late already.
While I will share my slideshow, what I do want to share is that whatever I said today, and I even said this disclaimer earlier, it's coming from my years of experience and as a practitioner, what really works. It's not coming theoretically, and theoretically, honestly, there is no right or wrong way of doing any of this, but I'm just sharing from my experience what works. So yeah, sure, I will share this with you all. And thank you so much for the participation, for all your questions, for listening in. And I hope it was helpful to you all. And I wish you all the best, inshallah, with your job applications.
Jazakallah khairan kathiran. Sister Alisha Iqbal will end the session with the dua.
For more information, you can contact us via WhatsApp. Chairperson number is here and vice chairperson number is also here, and you can further contact with us via email pakistanscent@sc.iou.edu.gm. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك آمين جزاك الله خيرا كثيرا السلام عليكم.
السلام ورحمة الله.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.